Thanks for joining us today. We are talking about rigging tips for trade shows and events, part one, as it relates to things you may want to hang and display in an event space, like signage or decor. So let's jump right in. First of all, when you think of rigging signage or anything at an event, you're thinking of it as something kind of like this, right? I mean, after all, no big deal. As a matter of fact, probably it's as easy as this. I mean, lightweight, no problem. I mean, what could be the difficulty? So why does everyone seem to think that it's more like this? Or at least when you get the rigging estimate, that's kind of how you feel, right? I mean, somebody's going to have to rig hundreds of thousands of tons above people's heads. Well, even though that may be how you feel, I've learned that we tend to think of rigging as no big deal, but properties and rigging professionals take it very seriously, and for good reason. Anytime you take responsibility for the safety of others and their property, it's important to act with care and proper respect. And that's the bottom line for all event professionals. It's about respect. Give it and you'll generally enjoy the reciprocity in kind. Forget it, or worse yet, give off an attitude and you'll likely not have a good experience from the people working your event. These guys are pros and working with them is generally a pleasure. So I know I always appreciate the work that they do for me, and that goes a long way with them. And it takes a team of guys just like this and more to pull off a large event. So by appreciating them, you tend to get the best results. So let's check out some of those tips that will work in both small and large venues alike. Well, first off, this is kind of basic, but all signage must be designed with installation in mind. If you're going to hang something, it has to be designed for it. You can ask what the design options are for hanging, and if they're not specified, remember to do that because there's different options available. Sometimes it's grommets, sometimes it's other things, but you need to know what it is. You can also use a standard cordage product to attach, and you use this product. It's black. That's kind of the color of choice because it tends to fade out and not be seen. And so that's some basic hanging information, but what about rigging? Remember that crane? Rigging can get serious, as we'll see. Sometimes you have to have a rig point that's not even there. What? Well, look right here where the arrow is. I needed a point out over the pool, and so I made one. But there's not one there. It just happens to be a place where several pieces join together and pull against one another. So nothing illegal and no laws of physics were broken, but you need to be able to see the design you have in your mind, and then the rigging isn't quite so hard, even if the point technically is not there until you make it. Again, with rigging, the point you need is usually already there, especially if you have an open ceiling like this. You just have to envision your piece in the space and, well, kind of connect the dots. Now, if this were just straight signage hanging down, it's easy. 2 points hanging straight down, attaching to either side of the sign, and you're done. But at stretch sails and stretch signage, we don't like straight. We like shapes, and that's where the skill comes in. Okay, now your turn. Take a look at this and see if you can think in your mind's eye, how would you try to rig this if you walked into this open auditorium with these pieces in your arms and trying to make this stage set? Where would you start? How would you do it? Oh, and no pressure, it's just for the Oak Ridge boys. So you give up? Well, since the piece is going to be centered, that's probably a good place to start. Start with the center, the top point, and it's pretty easy to find a spot in most auditoriums straight up overhead. And that's what we looked for here and we found. And then while you're there, you might want to go ahead and attach the top points of these two side pieces because you know what? They just so happen to be going up eventually to the same spot in the ceiling, which in this case is over 65 feet tall. And then the next two, well, you've got the one on stage left and the one on stage right. So while you're up in the ceiling, it'd probably be good to catch those. And now you'll notice we've got all of our top points rigged up in the high part of the ceiling. And then we can go on around and finish with some of the easier points that actually just go off to the side, and I won't even draw in the rest of them because the rest of them are actually pretty much headed either in the same place you've already been or headed down towards the floor. So I hope that helps you to see a little bit about the order as to how you would hang a piece, and I hope it makes sense a little bit to you. So to recap, you have to design whatever you're going to hang with rigging in mind. I would try to use black cordage. It tends to be invisible and comes in different sizes, and it's very strong. You visualize the piece as it will be in the air like we just did in that last exercise, and the rigging points will tend to jump out at you, even if some of them don't exist, because virtual points work great. And once you get the hang of it, sorry, that's a bad pun, it's not quite so hard. Well, thanks for joining us discussing part one of rigging tips for your trade show and event signage. And if we can be of assistance in any way to serve you, I hope you'll do reach out and get in touch with us. Thanks again.